And then it was through hanging out with him that I left my job in advertising and became a drag queen, which is
wow.
ridiculous at 35.
Wow. Hello, my name is Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the show that is all about lost queer spaces. Only it's not just about those spaces, it's about the people who drank there and danced there and fell in love there. Every week I talk to a different person and I find out from them what a particular queer space meant to them and how it helped to shape the person that they've become. So when I started doing this podcast, I was having lots of interviews to kind of talk about what the show was about and like try and get people to come and listen. And the question that I was asked every single time by anyone that was interviewing me was, oh, tell us about your favorite queer space. And every time my answer was the same. The answer was the Glory. And the Glory was this ramshackle little bar in East London that I just loved going to because it had this kind of creative chaos and it just felt relaxed. Maybe that's not the best word, but it just felt like somewhere where anyone could go and anyone could be themselves. So I was gutted, understandably, when there was an announcement earlier this year that the Glory was going to be closing. But I also had a bunch of questions because it wasn't a case of, oh, we're not making enough money, there aren't enough people coming to our venue, so we're going to close. Because within a few days of the Glory closing, the owners opened a brand new venue called The Divine, which was a few kilometers away, like just down the road. So I had questions and I needed to find out more, like why was the Glory no more? Luckily, I got to sit down with one of the bar's owners, John Sizzle, just a few weeks after the space had closed to find out from him directly, like, why did the Glory close? What was the decision? And crucially, like, how difficult that decision was to make. And also, of course, I asked lots of probing questions because I am me. And I got to find out a little from John about what that space meant to him. And I know that, like, that's the cheesy question that I ask everyone every week. But this time it felt a bit different because this space was in his blood for 10 years. This is a place where he ate and breathed and shat and did everything. And so there's so much that he learned from the Glory, and there's so much that we can take from that. And one of my favorite things about this conversation, and the thing that I'm sitting with and thinking about most, is the importance of partnerships and the importance of friendships. And that'll come up a lot in the conversation. We talked about John's business partner, Johnny Woo, and how the relationship between them kind of inspired and drove one another to keep going, even when things felt a bit shitty and difficult with the bar. Right. Before I say anything else that's super cheesy, before I embarrass myself by overanalyzing this conversation, I will leave it there, and why don't we get into it?
I've said this before, and it was quite a nice thing to realise. It actually, as an older person on the queer scene, I'm 55 now, like, I should have fucked off to Margate, right? I'm supposed to be, like, faffing around, selling shit on Etsy. Whereas I've always loved music, I've always loved going out, I love dancing, I love being around naughty, outrageous, slightly punky type people. I'm not a cosy dinner party, Netflix type of person. So for me, it's the perfect role. And also, it's given me security. It's better than when I worked in advertising. That was too tedious. It's sexy. There's cute people around, right? No, it's, but the downside is that what you love is kind of your work. And And sometimes you get exhausted talking to everyone, knowing who you are, talking to you about work. That's the downside. But the positive side is like, I'm not some invisible old gay, I suppose.
Oh,
And I suppose I've got some kind of authority. I like to be able to
bark orders.
direct things, I'd rather say.
Bark an order at me now. Come on.
I asked you to do something 2 weeks ago and it didn't happen. Why not?
Well, I just didn't feel like it.
Just an excuse, and you're not being accountable at the moment. Report to HR. Hi, it's HR here. No, it's just,
But are you serious about this visible old gay man thing?
yeah. How many 50-plus-year-olds do you see out and about? Where are they? At the theatre?
Are you saying that if you were in that space and you weren't there like in a work capacity, you would feel like you shouldn't be there?
Yeah. Definitely. The spaces are youth-led. Dance, club culture is more youth-led.
Sure. But when you think about the glory, and sorry, I'm going to blow some hot air up your ass here. Is that the phrase? Anyway, you think about like a really inclusive space where everyone's welcome.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that it's full of people over the age of a certain age, is it?
Not necessarily.
The audience there wasn't at 50 plus. It would sort of peter out into the early 40s. I'm 55. 55 is very different from 40.
But so what's that like then? Are you in there like, are these fucking kids? What these fucking kids?
Yes. Only sometimes. I mean, I think I don't know what you were like, but I was always a bit older in my head.
Well, I think I was in my head, but I don't think I was.
I think I was. I loved older people when I was first out. I would
define older people.
like.
Is this
Well, when I
35?
was 20, when I was out at 18, older people was everyone, right? Anyone in their 30s seems older. But I mean, adults. Like, I don't think you're an adult in your 20s. I think adults is more 30, especially queer people as well. A lot of them, it's all a bit.
Yeah, extended childhood.
Yeah, well, we're just experiencing our rightful teens, aren't we, really, in our 20s? But I don't know. I just think that, well, maybe loads of people are dead. No, I mean, like HIV, like, come on. When I came of age, it was rife. So there's probably...
Can't we just say they're at the theatre?
Yeah, that's a good way of saying it. So. But I think there is a gap. There's just probably less of them, to be quite honest. I talked to some of my older friends again from the 70s, like Princess Julia and an ex-boyfriend of mine, and they say, yeah, quite a few people are gone. They're only like 60, 65 themselves. So, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but where are all the fucking 55-year-old gays? Where are they?
Well, Margate, you
They're in
identified it earlier.
Margate and Hastings.
Or Brighton. But in relating to people that you employ that are like 20, maybe we shouldn't have this conversation because maybe someone who's 20 that you employ is listening to this. Let's just go for it.
Yeah.
Are you ever like, what the fuck are you talking about? Or are you compassionate for them given their age?
The nice answer is, oh my God, this must be amazing for them. I must be terrifying to them. Do you remember being terrified of adults?
Yeah. Oh, I still am. Yeah.
I used to be like, and I had to think before I walked into a room. You know what I mean? It's like really, really low confidence when it came to social stuff. So I see them coming in as these freshlings to the queer scene, freshlings to London.
Yeah.
They're also post-pandemic kids, aren't they, as well? So they haven't kind of...
No socialising skills, is that what you're saying?
Quite possibly. Well, their late teens was probably spent at home in their parents, trying to do study, just playing games. But no, that's, I think that is a fact. And I also think that, so they come to learn at the Glory, and they start off by just talking shit, because I think a lot of the time, what they do is they repeat this narrative, this language, this discourse that they hear online. So it's always this, instead of just getting on with it, that there's 101 things that you have to, as an employee, navigate and steer them towards or train them up in. So, and the reality of that is the ethos of work. Work is work. This is not a game. You're part of a team. You're going to have to learn how to be a team leader. I'm not a teacher. I'm not a parent. I'm kind of a bit of your boss. I'm a fun boss. So you just have to hopefully get them onto the burst a few of their fantasy bubbles about the reality of life in London, I think. But they're all fab. They're all like gagging to be part of something special. And I think the glory especially and the divine is becoming special like that. I mean, they're great playgrounds. They're great learning spaces, aren't they? Can you imagine?
Whilst we're talking about 20-year-olds, can we talk about you at 20?
Yeah.
So you were born and raised in London. So you've got that unique experience of not having run away to London to be your queer self. But what was going on for you at that age?
Well, 20, even though I didn't run away to London, it was still scary as fuck because I lived in North London and I was 18 in 1986. Wasn't a good time in queer history in the UK. HIV, Clause 28, loads of marches, age consent 21, gay life, as we called it then, gay life, queer life was very clandestine at the time. I mean, don't get me wrong, I loved it. Like, I loved a blacked out venue and having to knock on the door, and stuff like that. I mean, it sounds really archaic, but it wasn't far off because I think the mid-80s was still quite old-fashioned compared to the 90s and onwards. But at 20, I was already on my way to being an annoying queer brat.
So when did you come out then?
I came out at 18. I just started cottaging at 18. I thought I was the only queer in the world. I hated it. I went through an all-boys school. Didn't know anyone else gay. I really used to try to be straight, but I never could. And I just met a guy once in a cottage and asked him to take me out.
Oh, that's not how cottages work.
No, but I saw him a few times, you see.
Okay.
And he was like, no, you'll fly away. And I was like, well, yeah, I fucking will, but I'm going to do that anyway. So let's go out. And remember, for him, I was 18, so I'm illegal. Being associated with me could put him in jail. If my parents found out, they could prosecute and put him in jail. So can you imagine that? I mean, just think of that.
Yeah.
Like, if you actually quantify what that means, you can understand why the scene was so weird.
Well, so how old was he then, like roughly?
30, about 33, 35.
Okay.
And also, he wasn't preying on me. I was making him sleep with me. He really enjoyed my company as well. And I think the thing is, like, it was so oppressed. I could see it now, looking back. You don't have that feeling now. You don't have that fear that you used to have back then. You couldn't even get a job if you were gay. There was no laws protecting you.
Yeah.
You couldn't be out. It was only in certain places you could, but chances of you getting a good job in British Telecom or something as an out clone with a hand-on moustache and a limp wrist, it's not happening. That old boys' world would close ranks and not have you there. So, but I was just so determined. I wanted to go to a disco. I just wanted to go to a disco. I wanted to go to a disco. I wanted to go to a disco.
Well, and you were afraid to go on your own, which is why you needed him to take you?
Yeah, well, I didn't know anywhere. I didn't have any gay press. How would I find out where anything was? All I knew about was the Black Cap, because I'm a North London boy. I was from Highgate, Archway kind of area. And I'd go to Camden occasionally, but I'd know that was a gay haunt. But I used to read in newspapers, like I remember Philip Salon getting stabbed outside Heaven or something. And it was on the front page of The Sun, and I'd read about this and I'd be like, where's this place? But how could I find out? Where am I going to get information from?
Just go on the internet.
Oh, yeah, in my time machine. So it was just about knowing that I had to go to a place. That is it. That's the only project I had, was to go to a place. I'd think about everything else after it.
And so did he eventually relent?
Yeah, he took me out. I met his friends, and we went to Central Station, which was on York Way. And I was like, oh my God. And it had a basement like the Glory, ironically. Black brick, dripping water, really slightly dank, Silence of the Lambs.
And you were like, I'm home.
I tell you what, I was like, oh, music, disco. I danced to, I think it was Don't Leave Me This Way or something like that by the Communards, with Jimmy Somerville over there in the corner of the room. And I was just like, just a breath of that, first gay bar I'd ever been to. I hated it. The fact that I was gay, and just to be able to be in a place and go, just like coming out of a coma.
And did you run away?
Well, soon after, I was going out pretty much 3 or 4 times a week. I bumped into old school friends who turned out to be gay, ironically, and we started running around town like Bananarama, like literally going everywhere.
You're Siobhan, right?
Sarah.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The tall, bossy one. And we just started going out from then on in. But 20-year-old me was doing ecstasy, so this is a whole other conversation.
Oh, so it's a slippery slope.
Well, it was I was out on the tail end of High Energy, I think.
Yeah.
The beginning of Rare Groove, which then suddenly turned into house music. Like, I was only out for about 8 months, dressed like a Bros fan. And then the following year, I've grown my hair out and wearing baggy clothes and doing pills,
Oh, yeah. And I wanted to ask how you then got into performing.
Well, that was a slippery slope, probably from the age of about 8. My parents used to go to the pub, and my auntie lived downstairs, and we had this intercom so she could hear what was going on. But if you crept out of our bedroom, she couldn't hear anything. So when my parents were at the pub, I'd be dragging up with my sister in my mum's clothes and mucking about. So I was performing, in other words, in drag. And I asked to do it in school once. Oh my God, in primary school. And I made 2 of my mates, I made wigs out of newspaper and skirts out of rags. And we did Big Spender, which is quite a dirty song. Quite a raunchy kind of song, isn't it? For a bunch of 8-year-olds to do.
Did you shake your bosoms? Like, I feel like that you have to kind of do that with that song.
I mean, it's quite burlesque, isn't it?
Yeah, you got to give it like the va-va-voom, right?
Yeah. Well, I was a very sexy 8-year-old, obviously. Disclaimer.
Let's not take that conversation any further.
And but I was super shy. It's just such a weird thing to think about, and also knew I was different and was getting bullied and stuff like that. So I don't know where this person came from.
I'm getting bullied. What's going to help? Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm just going to be sexy. I'm going to make the boys think I'm a girl. But yeah, so I just like that sort of flamboyance and everything. And I think most performers will tell you they were obsessed with really diva-led films and lots of female imagery because they always got to be the peacocks, right? But later on, once I'd left secondary school and everything, and my gay mates were hanging around, we got a council flat together, 2 of us, and so that was run riot there. We'd go to bars, come back 2 hours. I'll disappear and come back in a dress made out of towels and start annoying them with some Kylie lip sync or whatever. And so I've always enjoyed acting the fool in that sort of sense. But it was when I met another boyfriend that his friend was a makeup artist and used to take me to places like Torture Garden and dress me up. He used to think I was too scared, and I'd be like, no, I can do this, and get on the fucking tube. Dressed as some kind of dead Marilyn or something. Seriously, things would end up doing. And then it wasn't until I met Johnny. And then Johnny said, what do you do? And I said, oh, I'm a drag queen. Meaning that I said, what do you do? And he goes, oh, I'm a drag queen. I went, oh, I do that. And then it was through hanging out with him that I I left my job in advertising and became a drag queen, which
Oh,
is
wow.
ridiculous at 35.
Wow. Well, and so had you actually been doing drag at like performing drag at that
No,
time or no?
go at club drag.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What a leap of faith.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I was never confident like that. But I knew Johnny was such a good, not mentor, that's not the right word, but you were safe. You felt safe with him doing it. And also, it was so exciting. It was so creative. It was so. He was always constructing shows and giving you a part in it and everything. So you felt directed. And as I've always done, when I put me in a room and something needs to be done, I will make it happen. I'll do my best to make it happen and not let anyone down. So
you did all his admin, is that what you're saying?
well, I tell you what, I did all the tech and I would put the show together and burn the CDs and I would make the flyers and I would organise all that sort of stuff. Yeah, absolutely. You all have to fall into a role, don't you?
Yeah. But so is some of this around the safety net of the friendship?
What, talk to you about it?
No, taking that leap of faith, feeling like, yeah, I can do this.
Well, feeling like fuck advertising, because I was in advertising at the time and I was exhausted by the hours I was working.
So you thought you'd run a bar?
Well, no, I thought I remember I was doing drag for 10 years before we had the bar. Not 10 years, no, what? Yes! I met Johnny in about 2004.
Okay.
2002, 2004, something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I literally... We were doing all the gigs. It went pretty quick. I mean, I was rocking and rolling as well at the same time. So I think I was having my first middle-age crisis.
Ooh, have you had another one since then, or are you just holding out?
Oh yeah. I think gay men especially have several.
Oh, okay. Oh, do we have permission for that? Is there some kind of sanction somewhere that says you are allowed this many?
Yeah, well, you go bald, that's one. Yeah, I think there's aging moments, isn't there? It's like Doctor Who, like sort of regenerating.
But midlife crises aren't about your appearance, are they? I mean, they can be, but they're not just about your appearance.
They're triggered by what you see in the mirror and how you physically feel, aren't they? Otherwise, we'd just be the same all the time.
Yeah. I thought some of it was about like, oh, fuck, I'm this old and I haven't achieved anything.
There's that. Or there's, oh, fuck, I've achieved something, but I don't have a life.
And I don't want it anymore, yeah.
Or, oh, fuck, I don't want to be 40. I want to be 25 and I don't know.
Who'd want to be 25? That sounds awful.
No, I know. 38 is the one.
Oh, yes. I've been thinking this recently. I think like mid-30s is good.
Yeah.
And then everything other than that.
Yeah, you got to leave the twigdom behind. In my mind, it's just good to be kind of a bit gnarly, physically able to do everything, sit cross-legged on the floor and spring back up into action.
That's my number one priority for a day. What were we talking about? Oh, yeah. No, that's what I was saying, like about being part of something bigger than yourself, right? Like it can give you a lot of courage.
Yes, agreed. Because everything I've done for the last half of my life, near enough, has been with Johnny. And that is like, he probably wouldn't agree with this, but neither of us have brothers, right? And we're both the elders.
Oh, we're getting schmaltzy, aren't we?
Well, we've both got a sister. I think that's why our antlers were rubbing a little bit at certain points. But having an equal, should I say, this is my point. Instead of growing up having to look after your sister, it must be nice to a degree to have someone that is literally on the same level as you. And I think with Johnny as well, especially, he's used to being the leader. He's a very good leader with shit admin skills. He's very good at being a leader, and I've watched him and try to learn from those traits and try to bring it into my more straightforward version of leading. And I think for him as well, I just think it's a really good deal the pair of us have got. It's an amazing deal. I can't see it ending. I mean, I have my days I'm like, fuck everyone, what the fuck am I doing this for? Like, ugh. Why should I, all my hours of work, benefit other people? Ugh. But, you know, that's just normal. You just
Yeah.
you
Normal diva behaviour, yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a really good thing. I mean, and I'd like to think that he thinks the same.
Well, we have him on the other line.
Hiya!
Did any of that ring true?
I think he would ring true. He probably wouldn't be able to talk the same way that I do because he's very British. Whereas mine very Irish.
Oh.
And gobby. That's you know, a spade's a
That's
spade.
the technical term, gobby.
Yeah. Like, you know, tell the truth and shame the devil, as they would say in Ireland, which means basically stop. Listen, let's just get to the point.
Okay. Should we get back to the point then, on that note?
You're interviewing.
So why don't we go back then to 2014?
Yeah.
When you first had the idea, when you were like,
crikey,
going to
yeah.
open a bar. What was going on in your mind? And there's a tinge of judgment in that, the tone of my voice there.
Well, I tell you what, it wasn't my idea. It wasn't my venue to have. It was Johnny and Colin, who were in a relationship at the time, were looking for a venue independently. And I was looking for a venue independently with my friend, Zoe Argyros, who was a manager at Dalston Superstore. But Johnny just said to me one day, "Oh, do you want to come and see this venue that I've found?" And I was like, "What, you're looking for a venue?" And obviously, we're friends. We're good old friends. I mean, it wasn't like a competition thing. We weren't being like untoward. And he just said, "Come and see this venue." And he took me to 281 Kingston Road, which was called Paradise Inn at the time, and opened the doors. And I walked in, and it was a massive dump, like completely gutted, falling apart, knackered old derelict pub with loads of pianos scattered around. I think I had 4 pianos in the room, weirdly. And then I had the basement, as you know, which is horrendous and we never really got to grips with. But at the end of the ground floor is a stage. And I was like, I just saw that stage and my head just went click, click, click. This is the venue. And as he's showing me around, Johnny's not like as kind of pub-centric as I am. I sort of grew up in pubs with my parents, not working in, but drinking in. And I used to run around a lot of them in oldie, gay London town. And I just said to him after, "Don't say anything now, Johnny, but I want in. I've got some money stashed." And he obviously knew that I used to run a small business when I worked in advertising, so I've got a background of marketing and just all finance and all of that kind of horrible stuff that you have to do to run a business. So I knew that I could bring that to the table. Like Johnny's the performer, he's got that pull, but on the other side, no one in the group had any kind of business acumen or wanted to be involved in that. So Johnny and Colin just said, "Yeah, okay." Go for it. So it literally, I think, within 6 weeks of seeing that space and I was sitting in a freezing cold room trying to get a business together because they also invited in Zoe. So the 4 of us, Zoe's bar experience, my business side, Johnny's performance, fame, and also creative ability, plus Colin Rothbart's, dare I say, money, meant that we could open up the ideal business.
And how many venues had you looked at before you saw the Paradise Inn?
I had seen on my own with Zoe 1.
Oh, okay.
It only just started happening, but they'd been looking on and off for a year or something. So they'd seen several.
Wow. But so how did you know then, if it was the second venue that you looked at, how did you know, other than the stage, or was it just the stage, that like, this is it, this is definitely the venue?
Don't look a gift horse in the eye. Basically, if I could go into business with Johnny and Colin, it takes a lot of money. And so for a start, I didn't have much money, but pooling 4 people's money made it viable.
Oh, yeah, but that answers the question of why you would get into business with them. But what
Yeah.
about the like walking into a space, and what about it made you go, yeah, immediately?
Size of it, literally the dimensions, the way it moved. But also remember, the way you can move around it, should I say. Also, you've got to remember that they're few and far between venues. You don't get to see loads of venues. You don't have a pick. You don't have choices.
Oh, okay. So you're not being driven around by someone in a Foxton's Mini.
No. It looks like that, right? But also, they're really expensive. The stuff that is available are like, this giant space that's going to cost you $500,000 in a lease. So you have to be able to find something that is a deal, right? That fits your deal. So it's like, you might have a 2-bedroom house and a garden aspirations, but the reality is you've got bedsit money. So it's kind of like that with venues, So there's no romance around it, I'm afraid. We didn't look at loads of them and go, la, 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 la. This actually was a gift. And it was a dump. So it needed that sort of queer, like,
Zhuzh.
make do and mend, that kind of attitude that we're not West End Wendy's, we're East End, like, scallywags.
Well, that's not alliterative. You need something alliterative. East End.
East End. What West End Wendy's? East End egotists.
We'll workshop it. We'll get some things. So, what do you remember of the first night?
I remember the first night still running around, being exhausted, painting stuff, sweeping up. The paint was still wet, having to get into drag, and then pop, like into 15 minutes and open the doors. And there was a queue down the street. It was so exciting. Everyone went nuts for it. Even, we only had a painted sign outside saying the glory. It took us a while to get the name. Once we got that down, I could bang on with the marketing. But remember, this is pre-Insta.
Is there a story behind the name?
Yeah. The glory was... Oh, God, we struggle with names because everyone... you got 4 people with terrible ideas. And, of course, mine are always the best.
So who won? Did you win?
I kind of won. They won't admit that. But I worked it. They wanted to call it things like Twister, Stop and Go, Leather and Lace. There were awful names. Awful names.
I quite like Leather and Lace if it's ironic.
It's more of a night, not a business. Not a business like on Company's House.
Isn't it a 5-star album?
Yeah, probably. Luxury and Lace, I think that is. The idea behind the name is that I wanted something that represented performance, because that was the whole plan, that what we were selling. Performance, that was the main thing. And take the glory. It's a very pompous kind of name. It's very self-assured, right? And I kind of like associating words with queer people that are celebratory. I mean, the Rat and Carrot isn't going to do it, is it? You're not going to call it something like Barcode. I mean, these are all great, legendary places, but it's all a bit blokey,
Is Barcode blokey?
It was, bloody hell. Barcode was...
But the name doesn't evoke...
Yeah, Barcode, It's kind of like a prison-y porno name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a celebration of capitalism.
Well, don't knock that, because you need that in order to get a queer bar. But yeah...
okay,
glory.
and so shall we move on to the decision to close the glory?
Dun-dun-dun-dun.
Tell me about it.
In a nutshell, the building's falling to bits. It'd been on sale, because the landlord lost his money during the pandemic. So it'd gone back to the bank and it'd been on sale. The building is broken. Upstairs is completely derelict. Part of our ceiling had fallen in. There were leaks everywhere. It needed new staircases. The windows needed replacing. It needed a 100k refit, which we could have done, because the Divine costs a lot more than that to do. But the point being that there was a new potential buyer. I'd met loads of them and had to go through all of the rigmarole of you know, who we are, what we stand for, and why we should stay. And they wanted us to stay because, as you know, hospitality is dying. Local corner pubs are dying, and anyone buying the business wants to buy the building to be a development, right, for rental space, which again impedes on how we operate, and also means that the building would have to close for X amount of time. So whatever the decision is, if we stay, our business is not going to be viable for a certain period of time. And that costs money, and I've got mouths to feed, you know. So we tried to buy the building. That was becoming incredibly difficult. The banks do not have any respect for your existing business. They just have a spreadsheet that tells them what they can invest in and how much you need to put up to do that. So that wasn't becoming viable, even with an extra business partner, blah, blah, blah. And we'd already been looking for a second venue for 2 years. 2 years. We were looking, this other venue came up for grabs again, even though we'd been turned down for it before. And I just said to the boys, I said, we just got to let it go. It's over.
So you initiated the conversation?
I think so. I think because everyone does their own business outside of work and I'm there all the time, I'm just in it. You know, I know what's going on with the money. I'm just chewing it over more than everyone else constantly.
So what was the thought process that got you to the point of saying that to the others?
We're in danger of closing any minute now. That's what's going to happen. There's going to be no business. We've got to move. We've got to get something now. And we've been gazumped a few times. And this one came along, and the process moves quite fast in a slow way. I think we got hold of the place in September. We started discussing it, and then we signed for it in December the 1st. But you also have to give up your lease in the current building. So you really only have this short period of time to really make a decision.
But so wait, let me get this right. So when you were first looking at this new place, it was going to be a new venue.
A new venue,
But the Glory would still remain open when you were initially looking.
Yeah.
And then you got to a point where you had the conversation with the others about, like, actually, we need to let the Glory go.
Yeah.
How did they respond?
We kept saying that several times. Like the first time, it was like, no, are you sure? No, let's carry on, blah, blah, blah. Second time, no, oh, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Third time, blah, blah, blah. Fifth time, sixth time. Guys, it's going. It's over. We can either let this happen to us or we can steer it.
So you were the bad guy again?
Not bad.
Maybe not bad.
No, just voice of reason. The annoying voice of reason. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Total pragmatism. And it was so bittersweet, but I was looking at this other venue as well, and it could have been the Glory. We could have just gone, new Glory, leave the old one behind. But this one didn't feel like a Glory at all. It was too shiny and too glassy.
Interesting.
I was like, let's just put the Glory to bed, let it sleep, and let's settle in here.
Interesting. But when you were looking at the place, you were just like, no, this is not the Glory Part 2. This is its own thing.
Because it's not a performance-led venue in the same way. Because the performance is all downstairs, and it was very much a club space. And we knew that the solidness of the concreteness of it would change the feeling that the experience would have. And I just didn't want to keep answering these questions like, oh, it's not that Glory, it's not that Glory, this ain't the Glory, this ain't the Glory, which I get already.
Oh, but really? It was just, fuck them.
Oh, God, yeah. It's just like, people are just a pain in the arse. People are just not cool. They're just... no, people are cool, but you only hear from people who love you or have a real problem with you. You just never hear about that middle ground.
Yeah. Yeah, no one's like, I'm whelmed.
Yeah. But it just doesn't feel like it, and I think people would agree. No, but the Glory's not over. Trust me.
Oh... Is this the scoop? Oh, no, you've probably said this to everyone.
We've copyrighted the name, so we've got to use it. No, I mean, like, let me get this place settled in. If we find something that feels like the Glory, we're opening that. Because as we started this conversation, the queer scene needs cosy pubs, and they're really good for cross-generational moments. Pubs.
Unless you're 55.
Unless you're 55, it'll just be me sat there with a whippet.
So, the glory is no more. Long live the glory. I'm going to ask you 2 super cheesy questions. And I'm telling you up front that they're super cheesy, so you've got time to prepare and lean in. The first is, what did the glory teach you about yourself?
Oh, it taught me to be confident, that I am now a confident person. All of the jobs that I've done have come together like magic to produce something good for people, not just myself. It's helped me be a bit more. I've always been quite selfless, believe it or not, but it's enabled me to be able to accept myself more, and basically for that to banish those feelings as a fearful gay teenager. So it's made me feel more, I think.
So you were holding on to those feelings up until recently?
I think what you do is, as a young queer, you have to become hardened. You have to block off a lot of your own needs and your own voice, because it's queer and it doesn't go down too well. Whereas I've been able to, through weird osmosis, turn that completely around, and my queerness is my strength. It makes the business brilliant, you know?
And you've only realised that through the glory?
Yeah.
Wow.
I wasn't proud of being queer. That's basically it. Whereas now I can go, you know what? We're fucking amazing. Like, and bringing it back to pragmatic thoughts, I said to someone the other day, last year we produced £400,000 worth of queer work. We paid £400,000 worth of money to people. The business turns over a lot of more money than that, but that's how much, because I can quantify that, we spent on performers, bar staff, and other suppliers like tech people and people making flyers.
Graphic designers.
And I was just like, wow, that's power, isn't it? That is real.
Yeah.
That's something that is very useful for the outside world to know as well.
Okay, so the second question that I was going to put out there into the world. Give me 5 words to describe the glory.
Beautifully glorious, rabid, glittering. I want to say something like, I need 2 more. Fantasy, utopia.
Well, considering you used the word glorious to describe the glory, I think that you can get 6. That's fine. That's good.
It's a real queer utopia.
Aww. That is us for this week. But before I let you go, if you enjoyed John's story, then make sure you reach out to him and let him know that you got a kick out of hearing about his days of yore. Find him on Instagram at John Sizzle. And whilst you're there, also make sure to look out for The Divine, which is at The Divine LDN. And if you are in London, if you're anywhere near London, if you're traveling to London, if you're doing anything that has London involved, make sure you go to The Divine and support queer spaces. Whilst we are doing the social media sharing thing, I can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Lost Spaces Pod. Right, I will let you get on with your day. Thank you for spending this last hour or so with me. Bye.